Okay, so I'm going to give a little guidance for some preparation and some strategies for solving some upcoming, some questions on algebra and patterns for an upcoming quiz. The best way to perhaps understand or prepare sometimes is to practice by doing. In that case, that's exactly what we'll do here. Okay, let's have a look at this question, and we'll go through a whole range of questions. In this question, it says find the missing number in the table. It gives you the first number. It gives you the second number. So let's look at the pattern between 0 turning into 13, 1 to 14, 2 to 15, 3 to 16. What I'm suggesting you do is look and see if you can find a discernible pattern. In this case, I'm understanding that the pattern is the number gets larger by 13 each time. In other words, we're adding 13. So I would see the answer here to be 17. I'll type that in and check if let's see if that's what it indeed is. Enter my answer. Okay, pretty easy. Let's do one more of these questions. I might have to move that. Here we go. Submit. Okay, again, now we have first number starting off as 0, going to 28, then to 29, then to 30. So my first number and my second number, the relationship here is that it's getting larger by 28 each time. Okay, now, therefore, if we start off with 15 and we're getting larger by 28 each time, we'd need to add those two numbers together. Assuming we do this correctly, we should get 43. Let's see if that works for us. Enter 43. Okay, now this is a question we're doing. Let's see if we can see a different relationship here. Now this time, 0 turns into 0. 4 turns into 32. 5 turns into 40. 15 turns into 120. Now what I see is the first number, in most cases, except for 0, is becoming larger. Now, because these are positive integers, with the exception of 0, when a number gets larger, but it's getting larger by a different amount, I'm thinking it's multiply. So I'm asking myself, what do you multiply by 4? What do you multiply by 4 to turn it into 32? To get a product of 32? What do you multiply by 5 to get a product of 40? Now, eventually, hopefully, you see the pattern here is timesing by 8. So if you see that pattern, you go ahead then and you multiply your 73 by 8. Once you do that correctly, you should have the correct answer here. In the interest of saving time, I'm not going to do that right now, but I think you've identified the strategy required. Let's do another question. This one. Find the triangle value so that 3 times the triangle value is equal to 14 subtract 5. Okay, so again, let's see what we can do here. I'll change my color pen to something more appealing. Okay, so we have 3 times something, and the something is represented by a triangle, is equal to 14 subtract 5. Now, please forgive my messy handwriting. I'm doing the best I can. So let's solve the 14 subtract 5. What is 14 subtract 5? Well, it's 9. So now the equation becomes easier to solve. 3 times what gives you 9? Well, actually, if you want to get the symbol on its own, you can get rid of the 3 times by dividing both sides by 3. That cancels out with that. And then over here, you have 9 divided by 3. When you go ahead and do that, you should work out that the triangle's value is equal to 3. Go ahead then and insert 3 there, and you should have your correct answer. Okay, let's have a look at another question. These questions I particularly like. Okay, in this magic square, the symbols add to give the numbers in the circles at the end of each row and column. Find the value of each symbol. So what it's telling us here is that when you add up these 3 values here, the star, the flower, and the star, when you add the 3 of them, they give you a sum of 48. Okay? So now we understand that. Let's use a different color. I would suggest you start with a good starting strategy is pick a row or column where the symbol is the same 3 times. So if I take the flower symbol here as an example, I can see that when I add that flower 3 times, it gives me 54. So the calculation I can do here to find out what one of those flowers is representing is I can divide 54 by 3. Okay? And if I know my divisibility rules for 3, I know that when I add 5 and 4, it gives me 9, which is divisible by 3. Quick calculation should tell me that 17 and 7, no, not 17. What can I add up 3 times? That's going to give me 54. Okay, you can either do that mentally. If you need to, if you need to do your division method, go ahead and do it. I'll do it in this case here. 3 divides into 5 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract. Again, apologies for my messy writing. 3 does not divide into 2. Bring down the 4. 3 divides into 24 precisely 18 times. So now I've worked out my answer here is 18. So what I've worked out really here is that this flower symbol, one of them, represents 18. Okay? Now that I've worked that out, I think and the next logical place would be perhaps let's see if we can solve this row's value. We know that the flower symbol is 18. So I can take 18 from 32. I can subtract 18. Perhaps I should use something a little more visual. Let's go to blue. I can subtract 18 from 32. 18 subtract 32 leaves me with 14. So what does that mean? That means that these two numbers together have a value of 14. One of them then should have a value of 7. And then I can start to plot my knowledge as I get it. So the strategy here is begin with the symbol that's repeated in an entire row, or it might be a column. In this case, it's a row. In a future question, you might need to just take a column going up and down like so. Okay? Divide by 3 if it's the same value 3 times. Start to use that information, plug it into the magic table or the magic square, and work out the other values. That's the strategies you require. Okay, let's have a look at this other question here. It's time me out, so I have to jump back to that question. Let's see if we can get this working. Okay, we're back. Right, let's take the same type of question. We have a magic square again. The symbols add to give the numbers in the circles at the end of each row and column. Find the value of each symbol. Again, just use the same strategy. We're using slightly larger numbers, but use the same strategy. I would recommend you begin with this row because it has this gear icon. It has this symbol used 3 times. So because it has that used, I'm going to have to apologize for my very untidy scribbling on screen. Because it has that symbol used 3 times, we can simply divide 240 by 3. If we know 24 divided by 3 is 8, we know 240 divided by 3 is 80, 10 times bigger. So now we know that each of these symbols is worth 80. I can eventually type that in down here for my answer. And I can go ahead now and use that information to help me solve some others. Now what I'm doing, instead of looking in terms of rows going across, I'm now going to look at columns going vertically up and down. And I'm going to use that information here to solve this first column here. Okay, I know that one is 80, so I can subtract 80 from 250. I can take away 80 from 250. Okay, once I do that, I should get 170, I believe. Let me check my mental maths there. Yes, 170. Now I know that this icon here and this icon here together give me 170. So if I divide 170 by 2, I should work out what one of those icons gives me. Half of 170. Well, half of 100 is 50, half of 70 is 35. Add those two together, you get 85. So now I've worked out the value of that. Again, the strategy remains the same. Begin with an icon that's repeated either in a row 3 times or a column 3 times. Work out what one of those symbols represents. Use that information to solve for the other symbols. That's the strategy. Now, the last little type of question I want you to have a look at is writing an equation from a word problem. So, in other words, this is a very important skill in math. Can you read the information provided to you And then can you create an equation from the information provided? It's a skill that takes development, practice, doesn't come overnight in my experience. So let's look at this question. The temperature decreased 6 degrees between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. The temperature at 2 a.m. was 25 degrees. What was the temperature at 8 p.m.? Okay, so what do we know here? What information have we been given? We've been told that the temperature decreased 6. So when I see the word decrease 6, straight away I'm thinking subtract 6. Now the time is given to us as well between 8 p.m. and 2 p.m. 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. The temperature at 2 a.m. was 25 degrees. What was the temperature at 8 p.m.? So what do we know? We know the temperature was 25 degrees, so that's important. We also know that it decreased by 6. Now, which one of these 4 possible answers gives me that information? So you have 4 possible equations, algebraic equations down here. One of them represents that. On closer inspection, my best guess is it's this. Well, it's not a guess actually. It makes sense. Temperature was 25, decreased by 6. N in this case represents the new temperature. Okay, so I would first of all select this as my answer for the algebraic equation. Then I would do the calculation. 25 subtract 6 is 19 degrees. Okay, and I put all that in. Let's check. Let's see if there's method to our calculations. Okay, this is a good example where you, well, frankly, reading the question 3 times is a very good idea. I misinterpreted the question and I misread the information provided. The key piece of information I missed was the temperature at 2 a.m. was 25 degrees. So the decrease had already happened because 8 p.m., and let's use a different color, 8 p.m. is earlier than 2 a.m. So the decrease in temperature had already happened. So because it had already happened, this is the correct equation that represents that. Okay? Now, to go ahead and solve that, you would need to um, see how you can balance the equation, and indeed 31 degrees would be the correct answer. Okay, so they're tricky. Let's do another one right now. Let's go. Let's clear selection, not to our mouse. Next. Okay, let's do another one of these. The soccer team had 94 students try out for the team, which was 2 times the number of students who tried out for the baseball team. How many students tried out for the baseball team? Okay, now what we don't know here is the number for the baseball team. So that's very likely to be represented by a letter in this algebraic equation. So I'm looking at the possible answers down below and I see they've used the letter N. So the baseball team's number of students is going to be represented by the letter N. What we do know is there was 94 students on the soccer team. We also do know, I'll use a different color, that that was 2 times the number of students who tried out for the baseball team. Now, what we need to find from the 4 possible algebraic equations provided is which one represents that information. So let's go through them individually. 2 times n equals 94. Well, I'm analyzing that as most likely the correct answer already. We don't know how many students tried out for the baseball team. We do know whatever it was would have been half the number that tried out for the soccer team, thereby multiplying it by 2 works. So I think already we found the correct answer. n subtract 2 equals 94. No, that does not represent 2 times more. 2 plus n would represent 2 more students, not 2 times more. And 2 subtract 94 again does not represent the information conveyed. So I'm confident that the correct equation, algebraic equation to represent that information, is 2 times 94. I'm going to select that as my answer. And then I'm also going to deduce and infer the correct answer, which would be half of 94 to represent n. Half of 90 is 45. Half of 4 is 2. 45 plus 2 is 47. Yes. Okay. So here's some strategies to solve questions on patterns and algebra. They can be challenging, but if you use the strategies provided, you can definitely solve these questions. Good luck, persevere, and well done.